I don't say contrast, but there's always going to be our era, 90s rap fans versus, we always compare it to anything to back then, including the 2000s. And that's part of the reason why I think the South ended up blowing up. You know, they say it was T.I., Gucci Mane, Jeezy, I'm forgetting somebody, that brought in trap music. And I guess mine is Gucci Mane, and Jeezy wasn't as much per se, even though Jeezy has a lot of quotables. But T.I., and Lil Wayne, for that matter, this is a lyrical. They were lyrical, and they came from the South. They're, you know, Nelly kind of popularized the Southern accent, but the South didn't get popping. The West didn't get popping until they got lyrical. The South didn't get popping until they got lyrical. T.I., Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne got better. When he got better lyrically, he popped off. Before that, Lil Wayne was not popping.
Who on the West?
Snoop.
All right, but who on the West?
Ice Cube.
But no, I mean, what about NWA? I mean, they weren't the most lyrical dudes, but I mean, Cube was Cube and Ren were the writers, but I mean,
DOC. Come on, man. That's what got them.
I know. I mean,
I'm just saying. My point is, the South got, when they got lyrical, when their superstars became lyrical, I think that's when they got to a different level, and New York had to respect it, to the point that New York, remember, they copied the West Coast after they popped off. Then they copied the South, but a part of that had to be I think it's the lyrics. So I say all that to say, who do we have now that are lyricists? Because we always compare the two, that era to this era. So who's today's lyricist? And I think you could do a better job of that.
Oh man. I mean, lately, just off top, lately, like, I mean, as far as speaking of the East Coast, you know, the Northeast, you got to go the route of Griselda, Conway, Benny the Butcher. I wouldn't say so much West Side Gun. I mean, he got some shit. He made some dope albums, but I think lyrically, Conway and Benny are miles ahead of him. 38 Special is another one. I mean, not even just the East Coast. I mean, you got Freddie Gibbs. Like, it's a few people out there, I hate to. I don't want to leave people out of that. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of talent out there. There's even a lot of underground people that I even follow on Twitter, man. There's a lot of lyrical dudes that are nice. And I mean, but as far as like people with notoriety, I mean, Griselda. I mean, you gotta say, I mean, for the decade, the last several years, you got to mention J. Cole. You got to mention Kendrick. Some people argue Kendrick's not lyrical. I mean, in what regard? Like, how do you define a lyricist? Like, you know, people, you know, he's not going to hit you with the multi similes and syllables and, you know, you with the lyrical miracle all the time, but he can craft music and craft albums. That's a lyricist. Putting words together, painting pictures. That's a lyricist. That's a poet, man. That's what poets are. They're lyricists. So, you know, there's just guys that there's levels to it. There's certain guys that just stand out above others and just, you know, just good at their craft. And I think Kendrick has probably been, album wise, has probably been the best in the last several years in that department. But I mean, there's a lot of great MCs still out there. A lot of people think the game is dead and, you know, hip hop is not the same, but the content is there. You know, you have to seek it. There's a lot of artists that actually have great content, and you know, they're just not on the mainstream scale, I guess, of notoriety, but they're there. If that's what you were looking for, they're out there. So, I mean, that's how I see it right now.
I don't understand anyone who says Kendrick is not a lyricist. That's silly. I think I don't even want to entertain that. I think he got the last official classic album. I don't remember just everybody universally saying this is a classic. Instant classic with the Good Kid, Mad City. Instant classic, and even listening to it now, I just saw, is it Portia from the Apartment B or 5B podcast? I'm sorry, Apartment 5B podcast. Portia I think she posted a question, what was the last album you played them for? And that might be the last one. For me, I just rarely do it anymore. But the recent, I was meant the last 3 to 5 years. So Griselda's in there. I think you mentioned them all. Earlier, I think you mentioned we were talking about J-Rock and some more members of TDE, Absol, and everybody. But I think J-Rock is in that conversation. It's probably a lot more, but I think a part of and also just like, and Drake, I think Drake is a lyricist still. The way he paints his pictures, he's vulnerable, whatever it is. Yeah. I still think you got to give him that credit. I don't even understand, I understand the ghostwriting stuff and everything, but whatever. Like at this point, he's still a lyricist. If you didn't know about the ghostwriting, then you would, you know what I mean? Like he's telling his life story. Yeah.
I
don't know who else.
Yeah, I don't like to do a disservice to anybody, but they're out there. They're definitely out there. If you feel like the game is missing the lyricism or the lyricists, they're there, man. Like these guys are there. Then you still got guys that's been putting it down for years that are still lyrical. Look, we had a podcast, staying up late listening to Jay-Z spit a verse with Nipsey Hussle and Nas.
Oh, Nipsey.
Putting out a song on Hit Boy on the same track. Nipsey's another one. Rest in peace, man. But the lyricists are there, man. It's a lot. Come on, man. Black Thought, Lupe, Jay, Nas, like all these guys, they still here. You know what I'm saying? They still putting out music, still putting out quality content. They're older, I'm saying, but if people feel like there's a void in lyricists or lyricism, that's not true. I don't think so. There's a lot of underground rappers.
But I wanted you to shout, if you could shout them off, you remember them. If not, we'll tag them and hashtag them and put them. When we post this, we could tag them on this. I don't know if anyone stands out. Okay. And I guess the reason what came to mind also was J. Cole. When I first listened to him about 10 years ago, before the Friday Night Lights mixtape, or I guess around that time, and I heard Simba for the first time and Lights Please, the acoustic version. I'm like, this guy's rhyming over a guitar like this? This is ill. And I thought he was going to be like the next super duper, like Nas, next level. I thought he would have the impact that Kendrick has, and not to compare him or take away from him, because J. Cole is great in his own right. But that was the last time I remember being like super excited about someone just technique wise, being able to flow like that. He is considered the NyQuil rapper on Twitter and everything like that. And I can definitely see that. I understand it because of the hooks. I think he should have some other people singing his hooks. That's really what the problem is, I think. But I guess also the question or the feeling that I get is, there's a new sound. The trap sound changed. It went from, like we mentioned, T.I. and Gucci and the Jeezy thing. And I think Rick Ross ushered in that Lex Luthor, that sound, that pounding of the 808s and that pounding. Like I couldn't stand being anywhere, a bar or club, and listening to Lex Luthor beats. 10 songs back to back. By that second song, I'm leaving. I felt like the devil was coming out of the speaker.
The BMF came out.
Yeah. Or even around that time, because he had like BMF and I'm a Star, and there was another one that it sounded exactly the same. And I'm like, I'm not standing for it.
Yeah. It was basically MC Hammer.
Yeah.
They were really the same beat, like sped up a little bit. MC Hammer and BMF, they sounded, I think they were the same beat, really.
Yeah.
Sounded the same.
But even then, Ross was lyrical.
Oh, yeah, he still is.
Right. So what I'm saying is, now that there's a new trap after Future and the Uzi Verts of the world, Uzi Vert even, I guess, has lyrics. It's a song and it's catchy, and I can hear like depression. I can sense it. They all sound depressed and high. But did hip hop revert to, because everyone, after Rakim is when everybody took lyrics seriously, I think, and he changed everything. Melly Mel, yes, was there first, and he influenced the Rakims of the world, but it wasn't like, yeah, and Run DMC made sense. They weren't playing any games either, but I think Rakim changed it. Like, you better be saying something. If not, you don't even count. And I think that's what happens with Ice Cube and like we just mentioned with the Coogee Raps of the world. Like, he ushered in the seriousness of your words and being able to flow and technique. And because there is a new sound, a new wave lately, the 90s fans like ourselves, we kind of always compare it to back then, and it was almost like a rule, like, you got to be nice. Like, that's what's missing. And maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe this is like that late 70s anthemic kind of rock and roll, Queen making these unbelievable stadium records, but it's not, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or AC/DC or Led Zeppelin. Like, things changed. So, I see that a lot, and only the hits are going to really resonate, I think, with people like us. I think that's my whole thing with that. Like, should we even compare? Because this is their time.
I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of both, though. Because at the same time, my thing with it is, for me, music is feeling and music is life, and music should be timeless. A lot of this music that's coming out, a lot of these guys putting out records is dope for the moment, and it might be the listen and the way we consume music now too that plays a part in this. I'm quite sure, but a lot of music that to me feels like this is coming out, it's here today, but a week or so is gone. Like, we're not listening to it no more. We're not digesting the music the same way we used to, or it could just be the product ain't what it used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of it's, it's not as conscious as it used to be. And it's a balance with that. We should all have fun. Everything can't always be serious. But because even back in the day, like, you had NWA, you had Public Enemy, but you also had, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. You also had Kid and Play. You also had these fun records, and you know what I'm saying? It was fun, man. You could go to a party and dance and still listen to the serious shit. And it's a balance. And I think a lot of people get caught up with that. People feel like it's saturating the game, and even Cube took shots at Kid and Play, around that time, or MC Hammer. That's another story, but still, like, it should be a balance. Like, I should be able to enjoy myself listening to this music, and now also, and learn how to also be conscious, listen to records that have meaning behind it. And I think nowadays we have that, but it's not being pushed the way as it used to be. I don't know. The game's changed a lot. No, streaming plays a part in that. Again, what I said earlier. If you're looking for those type of records, they are there. People are making those type of hits that, something serious behind it, something with meaning. And then, a lot of these kids this generation, they just want to have fun. I get it. We were at a point where we just wanted to have fun too. Like, going back to what I was saying about far as timeless music, I feel a lot of this music ain't timeless. Like, it's here today, but it's going tomorrow. Like, 10 years from now, you're going to be listening to this album or this record. And shoot, some of the shit ain't even getting that far. It's like a month from now, are you listening to this album or you're appreciating this album? It's not like how it used to be back in the day.
That's a process of, like, the evolution of the game of just, in the 80s, there weren't that many rappers. If you were rapping, you were kind of looked at like, you couldn't really step to Big Daddy Kane. I should have seen a video of Big Daddy Kane saying Slick Rick stepped to him. Like, Slick Rick was a greasy dude. And I think Big Daddy came out. I don't even know what happened, but Slick Rick supposedly walked around with golden guns. Like, so, he was an ill dude, but that was like an exception. Then in the 90s, NWA changed everything, and you had more street appeal. But with that being said, it was like a gold rush because the crack era was kind of waning down, and you had a bunch, all the street guys. They saw Suge Knight. I was going back and forth with somebody on Twitter. I was saying Eazy-E is the most. I don't know what people would diss Eazy-E for, or not trying to give him credit. I'm like, yo, he is the OG of the whole gangster look. Yeah, Ice-T was there, and I give Schoolie D his props. Schoolie D is Philadelphia, East Coast. He was an architect. He laid the blueprint for how to make the record, but Eazy-E's image was NWA. So after that, you had Suge Knight. After that, you had everybody else of the world. Master P. Around that time, Rap A Lot with Jay Prince, Puff, and Jay-Z. All these guys really, that's the Eazy-E model. So because of that golden rush, I think there was more attention and more money and more power from your own people that backed you. And now you had a whole bunch of artists who were willing to, who came out of nowhere and was like the NBA now. Remember how we talked about the 60s and 70s, all the real ball players, they weren't in the NBA. They were in the street. You know what I'm saying? So in rap, I think the same thing happened where, there's a lot of money over there and we can connect. We got to connect to the label. We got to connect to these big time corporations. So once that happened, I think a lot more rappers emerged and even the Tupacs of the world who made that much music while he was alive. And like this guy died at 25 years old. He was really a kid, but he left his mark with that much music being made in an era where he can do that because of the recording, the way to record changed. So I guess back then it was the big, I forgot what they call the reel that you had to walk around with. And it felt like you were carrying a midget. That's the way these guys describe it. Then it went to computers. And I think once the computers took over the MP3s and all that, and you have all the mixtapes, I think Tupac inadvertently he set the blueprint for 50 Cent, having all his music in the street and having all his music produced with really no A&R. The A&R was the street. So you took the DJ's job away. He was the A&R in a sense. He broke these records. Now you have the internet, Napster, all these other, the older blueprint OG to the streaming devices that they have now. But mind you, technology is advancing also. So now you could put a mic, just like we're doing right now. Put a mic in front of the computer, play a beat, you rap over it, and you can send it to the world. So why would you need, if we wanted to rap right now, we could do it. And then if a label hears us, they hear us. And a lot of times what happens is there is no, like I said, the A&R, there is no filters in between the beginning and until you remaster the record, until you really want to put this record out. You know what I mean? And then you get the rest of the world. The rest of the world can hear this polished effort. It goes from this raw thing to this polished product. And a lot of why do that when music, they basically don't even care about how it's sold. They rather just put as much of it out as possible. And if you have 1,000 songs, then you look better to the public, because really what they're selling is the image on Instagram, the image on all these social media apps. So you need to have 100 songs. You need to have 1,000 songs and then have a million people following you. Like Cardi B was perfect for these labels because she had the following, and all they needed to do was, we got 1,000 beats for you right here, 1,000 songwriters. You pick one of them, see if it pops. And boy, did she pop. We forget that money, the Bloody Shoes shit popped. That's still one of the biggest records in the last 5-10 years. So I think it's technology that connected us, and it took away the A&R, it took away a filtering. In a way, we need this compromise of both eras, and then we'll be able to say, because now you don't need to be as lyrical. There is no focus on, I'm writing this down, I'm competing with somebody else. The competition is almost for attention, as opposed to the integrity of every piece of the music. And what I guess my question would be, it's very easy to judge everyone doing that nowadays, but if this shit was around 40 years ago, I don't know if Rakim is Rakim. I just don't know. Maybe he is, but there's so much more music back then because it would be so crazy because everything would go, every trend would happen that fast.
Yeah, I mean, but everything happens. Everything's a cause and effect. Like Rakim had to happen for us to get to, you know, a certain point in hip hop for it to, you know, branch out and be what it is right now. I mean, all that, can't take that away from the past. If we'd had this type of technology back then, shit, it'd be a different game, man. I mean, there's a lot of factors that come into that, man. But I don't know. I really don't know how it would have been if it was set up that way back then.
Right.
But like you said, you made a great point. You made a great point when you said how it wasn't that many rappers back then. I mean, because it was still in its infancy. It was still rappers still up and coming. It's still young. It's only like 40 years old. And it wasn't so saturated. Now, like you said, everyone could just pick up a mic, record some shit, put it right to the internet, just like that. There's no A&Rs, no man, there's no record labels. So I mean, in that sense, the game is a gift and a curse in some way. The way it's set up now. You know, you got all these people out here, even podcasts. You know, who's to say that our podcast, like, oh, yeah, it's another podcast on hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But it's just everyone has a platform now. It's much different than it was back then. So yeah, like you said, if you were rapping and you had a record deal and you were out there, you had to say something significant. You had to be ill. You had to be dope, or you had to have a tremendous record or someone backing you. You know, it was just a different time. Now, anybody could be famous as long as your IG page popping.
I'm glad you said that, because from the beginning when we started, we watching, you know, how we did the podcast, even till now, it's been over a month or so, and we've improved. But I think that's a part of the integrity of somebody who will create music. I think if we were creating music, we would be doing the same thing. Like, nah, we're not. Nah, that's not hot. Nah, it could be better. Nah, it could be. So I think we're at the end of the day, we're looking for that person. We're always looking for that artist, and you know, the Dr. Dre's, the perfectionists of the world. It's harder for them to break because people ain't trying to wait that long. But speaking of integrity and